In today's video, we are talking with Sherryl-Lee Secomb, marketing genius in Brisbane. Let's go.
This is the Business of Art.
G'day and welcome to the Business of Art, where creativity and commerce come together. Today, I am chatting with Sherryl-Lee Secomb, marketing specialist in Brisbane. Sherryl-Lee's focus is on theatrical arts. And we're going to chat through a little bit about marketing for theatre and probably just a little bit about marketing in general because, tell me if I'm wrong, but marketing principles will apply across the broad spectrum of... Yeah, great. Cool. So, hello, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. Very, very happy. So tell us a little bit about the business. How did you get into marketing?
Through necessity, about 30 years ago, having always had small businesses, my husband and I, basically having to develop it ourselves. So for 30 years, marketing bricks and mortar and having to go through all the old school ways of marketing and developing and learning the principles and everything. And then about 10 years ago, I was asked to step on to the board of a large local community theatre company and asked to develop their online presence because that's when online presences were a thing. Yeah. Social media was starting and no one knew anything about it. There was no teaching online. Like now you can't swing a cat without getting good teaching. But we had to, learn it from scratch. So it was 10 years of developing what works on an extreme budget, using social media specifically in the niche of theatre and specifically for theatre companies, individuals, creatives that couldn't pay an agency, had to do it themselves. So it was learning what do you leave out of the standard marketing practice to be able to work for people who don't have time, don't have budget, and probably don't have the skills. Yeah,
right. So one of your specialties then is working with people on extremely low budgets.
Yeah, anything from $0 to $15,000. So it's $15,000 is probably, that's a large marketing budget, but that was a large company. But the average, they might be lucky if they've got a few $1,000s to throw at something. And they have to do it themselves. It's good old guerrilla marketing, but how do you do that effectively without wasting your time? And you can waste an awful lot of time using social media.
You've worked yourself as an actor and a director. You've dabbled across both sides of the stage.
So I understand everything. I understand the restrictions they have. I understand the restrictions that small independent theatre companies have. It's all very well if you've got, the ideas of hiring an agency. And I'll put a caveat out there. If, a theatre company has money and can employ an agency, do it. Don't do it on your own. But most of them don't. Yeah. So you can't just say to a marketer without knowledge of these restrictions in theatre to market my production when they are going to throw at you then the extra costs of photographers and graphic designers and all those post costs that you just can't handle, you can't afford. So, that was marrying those two things together was an understanding of those restrictions and also how theatre works, how they work and how to, develop the nuances of everything that's going in there rather than just an e-commerce marketing strategy. It's not the same thing. It's also being able to work with the artist to give them confidence that what you're doing is respectful of what they do. So it was a good marriage and it's worked really well. I really enjoy it.
So let's get into the nitty gritty then. So what would you say are top 3 to 5 tips that you would give some independent artist or small theatre company, be it not-for-profit or independently looking to be profitable? What would you say is the starting point for them?
Well, I think the things that stand out from a standard marketing strategy that differ for this section of the industry, the theatre industry, is time. You can't. It's very expensive if you give yourself a short lead-up time to say an opening night to market your show. You effectively have to advertise, and that's a different thing. So it's more expensive. You have to pay to get to where you're going to go. They need to give themselves time to develop a brand. What I find is most creatives go in and the first thing they want to do is their whole focus is about promoting the show rather than promoting their theatre company and developing relationships long term. It takes a lot longer than people think. And so they go in, I'm producing this show, and so that's what I'm going to advertise. And that is expensive, it's ineffective long term, and very hard way to do things. because today's marketing is different to what it was even 5 years ago, from the fact that we've got social media, but even working with the press, with journalists, is entirely different now. It's, what you've got 2 journalists on a paper doing what 20 did even 5 years ago, but they're still fielding the same number of inquiries. So how do you make a noise through all of that? So it's helping creatives to understand how to disrupt all of that in a way that adds value to the world around them. How to decipher social media and how to get through all of that, because all they see is influencers, and helping them to understand the difference between vanity metrics and effective marketing using that. It's time, it's long term, it's developing relationships with everybody, and it's understanding that no one cares about your art like you do.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So for, say, somebody who's coming into it green, new, creating new work, where would they start? Or how do they build that brand over time? And when you say a long time, how long are you sort of talking really is what you've seen as a minimum time for it to start taking effect?
Effectively, if the worst case scenario, it's 12, 18 months.
Yeah.
So it is a long time. That's to get something solid. But you can make an impact pretty quickly if you understand the one thing that will make you successful, and that is being yourself. If you go into this as a theatre company as just another theatre company and do what everyone else is doing and doing the traditional and not standing out, then you will just get lost in an ocean. I mean, we're in Brisbane. There are so many choices in Brisbane. So it doesn't matter where you are in the country, in the world, if you are not doing something disruptive, and that means being yourself, injecting your own personality into that theatre company, that is the one thing. There's nothing else. The one thing that will make you stand out is being yourself, and yet that is the one thing that creatives find really difficult to do. I
think that's really fascinating, because there's a lot of business stuff that I listen to when they're talking about B2B, B2C, so business to business, business to consumer or end consumer customer. And they're talking about marketing and really connecting with people. A really big phrase that's coming through is this idea that irrespective of whether you're B2B, B2C or whatever you are, ultimately you are H to H, which is human to human. And that idea that people will connect with people, not with a building, not with a logo. It's really that person to person. So even as a company, you're saying it is always best to have somebody who's out front, or a couple of people. Does it matter if it's one person or a couple of people? Or? It
doesn't really, but I think it comes from the values of the theatre company. As you start it, you're going to have a set of values, what you believe in, whether you are politically biased, whether, what is it about your theatre company that makes you unique. And there will be a reason, because there's a reason that you started a theatre company. It wasn't just to do art. So what is, and if it's these small independents are usually started by one, maybe 2 people.
Yeah.
So it's a personality to this theatre company. And the development of that, it's longevity-wise, it is not going to... If you're putting on a persona to project out into the world as your brand, you are going to get very tired of that and not be able to keep it going for very long.
Yeah.
It's also not going to have the authenticity. People are going to see through that.
Yeah.
Run out of things to say.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can be yourself and settle into that, you will automatically stand out. You will automatically have a personality, and you are not looking to appeal to every single person in the market. You're only looking to appeal to the people who appeal to you, like who respond to you. That's all you want. They're the ones that are going to be coming to your productions. The point of building your company brand is that you're building a relationship long term with people. And going back to your question of where do you start, document what you do. The challenge of let people in. It's like having a conversation at a barbecue about starting your theatre company. Don't be afraid to be real of the challenges, the late nights, all of that work that you do. Tell the story of that. That's what makes it human. There is a fatigue that comes if all you do is buy tickets. Buy tickets. Wonderful photo. Wonderful. Buy tickets. That should be 20% of what you do. 80% of what you put out, and I'm talking primarily online here because that's the least expensive and the easiest, and that's where most people go, is tell them the story, build that relationship, have conversations online, be a real person. Because then when it comes to ticket buying time, you have an audience that has a million things to choose from. Yeah. Let's say they've got 6 shows sitting in front of them on a Friday night. They know one of them, they know you because they feel like they've got to know you over the last 6 months. There's 4 or 5 others over here. That show looks really interesting. I like the look of that one too. I have $25 to spend. They're going to be very highly influenced by the fact that they know you or feel that they know you, that they've invested in this journey of development of the company plus development of the show. So you're running effectively 2 brands alongside each other. If you just promote a show, if your whole brand is around the show, when that show ends, you have to start all over again.
That was part 1 of my interview with Sherryl-Lee Secomb. If you're interested in the rest of this interview, I will link up the other videos in the description below. And once all the parts are released, I will also release a full version. So if you wanted to just sit and watch the entire interview in one go, you will be able to do that. Thanks very much for watching. Of course, it would be great if you could hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and most importantly, if you found something valuable in this video, there is a good chance that you will know someone else who would find it valuable as well. So please tag them in the comments, share it with them, whatever you've got to do to pay it forward so we can keep helping each other out. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.